YouTube, it's Zoe, and today I want to share a whole lot of books that I acquired over the past few months. Since my last book haul, we had Christmas and my birthday, so a few of these are gifts. Also, a couple of publishers kindly sent me some books. With that being said, let's get on to the haul. The first two books were actually sent to me by St. Martin's Press and Wednesday Books, who are also kindly sponsoring this video, and they are Winter Song and Shadow Song by S.J. Jones. This follows Liesl, whose dream is to become a musician, but she cannot pursue this as she is forced to run the family inn. One day, her sister is taken by the Goblin King, who she has been enthralled by her entire life. She travels down to the underground to save her sister, but soon learns that the only way to free her is for Liesl to marry the Goblin King. Dun dun dun. So this is a retelling of Labyrinth with a little bit of Hades and Persephone thrown in, and I like both of those things. I've actually already started this book and I intend to finish it soonish, so I will let you know all of my thoughts once I've finished it. In case you were wondering, Shadow Song and the paperback version of Winter Song both hit stores on February 6th, so they are in stores if you want to get yourself a copy. Again, thank you so much St. Martin's Press and Wednesday Books for sending me these. Next is Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng, which I have seen all over BookTube, so I got myself a copy. This takes place in a picture-perfect suburb of Cleveland and follows two families, the rule-following Richardsons and the Warrens, who are an artistic mother-daughter duo. These two families form a close relationship after the Warrens rent a house from the Richardsons, but are torn apart when the Richardsons' friends try to adopt. The synopsis itself doesn't sound too interesting, but my BookTube friends who have already read this have said such positive things, and I trust their opinions a lot, so I am giving it a chance. Also, I am trying to delve more into the world of adult fiction, as I am now a mature 22-year-old. Then I have The Bells by Danielle Clayton, one of my most anticipated books of the entire year. This is a fantasy novel set in a world where people are born gray, and it is only through the help of a bell, a person who can control beauty, that they are able to transform and become beautiful. Camellia, the protagonist, is a belle and is invited with a group of fellow belles to the royal palace in order to compete to become the royal family's personal belle. But once she is there, she learns that there are dark secrets hidden in the palace and that her beauty powers are far more dangerous and more powerful than she knew. I have no idea if they're officially called beauty powers, but you know what I'm talking about. I think that this sounds amazing. This looks amazing. I mean, look at this. Look at this pink map. The next book is Autobiography by Christina Lauren, which follows a bisexual teen, Tanner Scott, who goes back into the closet after moving from California to Utah. He's in his last semester of high school and decides to take a seminar in which you are required to write an entire book in 4 months. And then he falls in love with the young mentor of the class. You know I'm a sucker for a good YA romance, especially one that revolves around writing. Also, I feel like book covers are getting better. All of the ones that have come out lately, I am in love with. Thank you, graphic designers who make these beautiful covers. I wish I had an ounce of the talent all of you have. I can barely do stick figures. I then got my hands on a copy of North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell, which so many of you have been recommending to me because my favorite book is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and a lot of you think that this is quite similar-ish. She also wrote in England in the 1800s, except she wrote in the mid-1800s and Jane Austen was the late 1700s and the early 1800s, but whatever. This follows a young lady named Margaret Hale whose father leaves his job at the church in order to move his family to the north of England to an ugly industrial town. At first, Margaret hates this town, but she soon develops a passionate sense of social justice and fights for the rights of the poor mill workers. And I think she falls in love with the owner of the mill, but it's kind of like a Mr. Darcy situation where they don't like each other at first, but then they fall in love. I'm not sure, but I'm really excited to read this. I've read all of Jane Austen and I need some more. We then have Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Seanan Mcguire, the sequel to Every Heart a Doorway, which I read this past summer. This series follows what happens to children after they return from the fantastical worlds back to our normal normal world. So for example, what would have happened to Alice after she came back from Wonderland. I thought the premise of the first book was very entertaining, very intriguing. It's something that I've always wondered myself, but the execution, I felt like it was a little rushed. But then I learned there was a sequel to the first book, and there are more books after this too. I think there's going to be 4, 6, there's going to be way more books in this series, so I will finally get the closure I was looking for. Next is A List of Cages by Robin Rowe, a young adult contemporary book which follows Adam Blake, a high school senior with ADHD, who for his class elective becomes the aide to the school psychologist. One of his jobs is to track down all of the students who have been dodging the psychologist, and he figures out that one of these students is his foster brother who he has not seen for 5 years. I've heard this is a heartfelt book which focuses on the power of friendship, something that I truly believe in and that I love to read about. I then have The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory, an adult romance book which follows two people, Alexa and Drew, who get stuck in an elevator together. Drew needs a date for his ex-girlfriend's wedding that weekend and so impulsively asks Alexa to pose as his new girlfriend, and she impulsively agrees. I already finished this book and it is such a delight. So if you're in the mood for a light and fluffy chick lit book with a little bit of steamy times, this here is your book. The next 4 books are the Lord of the Rings series by J.R.R. Tolkien. We have The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, The Return of the King, and this Reader's Companion, which is the biggest book of all. I read The Hobbit with Ostentatious a few months ago and I really enjoyed it. I also really enjoy the Lord of the Rings movies, so I thought it was time to read the books. And so first I wanted to get my own copies. These are very heavy, so I want to put these down now. We then have Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kahn, another one of my most anticipated books of the year. This follows college student Alice, who is biromantic and asexual. Her girlfriend breaks up with her at the beginning of the novel after learning that she is asexual, and Alice is single during the summer she spends working at the local library and develops a massive crush on her co-worker. This is one of only 2 books I've heard about which have an asexual protagonist, so I am really excited about the representation. Next is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir, the first book in a fantasy series which was inspired by the militaristic Roman Empire. I actually already own a copy of this, but it is hardcover. This was a gift. I didn't buy a second copy for myself, but truth be told, I actually prefer this copy to the hardcover. Not only because I already like paperbacks more than hardcovers in the first place, but I love this new artwork so much. I then have The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafon, which is set in Barcelona in 1945. The protagonist is an 11-year-old named Daniel, whose father is an antique book dealer and allows Daniel to pick out any book he wants in the Cemetery of Forgotten Books. Daniel picks out The Shadow of the Wind and loves it so much that he wants to find every other book that the author has written, but soon finds that all of these books have been systematically destroyed. Daniel sets out on a quest which results in discoveries of dark secrets and murder and madness and doomed love. In addition to trying to read more adult books, I have been trying to read more translated works, and one of my friends recommended this one. I don't know what it is about books that revolve around books and reading and writing, but I am drawn to them. 2 more translated works I picked up were Persepolis, The Story of a Childhood, and Persepolis 2, The Story of a Return by Marjane Satrapi. These are graphic novels which were originally written in French and chronicle her life growing up in Iran during the Islamic Revolution. I've already read the first book and it's not only educational, it's deeply emotional. There are some funny moments, but mostly it's dramatic and sad and inspiring. The moment I finished this book, I immediately went and ordered the second. It's one of the best graphic novels I've ever read, and especially one which covers such an important historical event. The next book is one you've most definitely heard about, and it is Zenith by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings, a young adult sci-fi which takes place on a spaceship occupied by a crew of women. Also, Sasha is so lovely and put me in her acknowledgements. I love you so much, Sasha, and I am so proud of you and Lindsay for writing an entire book, something that I've never been able to do, so congrats. We then have Love, Hate, and Other Filters by Samira Ahmed, another one of my most anticipated books of the year. This is an Own Voices contemporary novel which follows an Indian American teen, Maya, who is about to graduate high school and is torn between fulfilling her parents' expectations and doing what she wants to do. While she debates this, a terrorist attack takes place and the suspect shares her last name, so she is confronted with extreme Islamophobia as she is trying to figure out where she belongs in the world. Next I have the graphic novel for A Wrinkle in Time. I read A Wrinkle in Time a couple of months ago during one of my last 24-hour readathons, and I thought it was okay, but all of the trailers for the movie look so amazing that I wanted to give it a second chance, and then I was at Target and I saw this, and I'm really into graphic novels right now. Then I have The Inexplicable Logic of My Life by Benjamin Alire Signs, which follows a high school senior, Sal, who is comfortable in his life with his adoptive gay father and his Mexican-American family, but one day his history comes back to haunt him and completely change his life. He is no longer sure of anything, and he, along with his best friend Samantha, face issues of loss, grief, and faith. I have not read any Benjamin Alire Signs before, but I do own another one of his books, Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. He has very long titles, but I like them. He is a favorite author of several of my booktube friends, and all of them have urged me to read him, so now is the time. This is the book. The next two are in a series. They are The Diabolic and The Empress by S.J. Kincaid, which were sent to me by the publisher. This is a sci-fi fantasy story, and as it says on the inside cover, a diabolic is ruthless, a diabolic is powerful, a diabolic has a single task: kill, in order to protect the person you've been created for. Nothing else. The main character is Nemesis, and her person that she was created for is named Sedona, the heir to the Galactic Senate. Someone wants to kill Sedona, so Nemesis has to impersonate Sedona. I always love a good impersonation, a good dressing up as someone else and fooling the man. I have another graphic novel. It is Saga Volume 3 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I have yet to read Volume 2. I've just read Volume 1, but I really enjoyed Volume 1, so whenever I see the other volumes on sale, I just pick them up. This is another sci-fi fantasy story which follows two soldiers on opposite sides of a giant galactic war who fall in love and have a child, even though they're not supposed to do that. So both sides want them dead. There are other characters and they have their own plot lines, but it all revolves around this galactic war. There are robots, there are creatures, these people have horns and wings, and there are different species. The art style is just amazing. I can't believe they come up with all of these characters. There are ghosts. It's great. The next book is I Believe in a Thing Called Love by Maureen, another young adult contemporary romance. This follows a high-achieving Korean-American teen named Desi Lee who has achieved everything she set her mind to with hard work. She is the student body president, she is on the track to go to Stanford, but she has a hard time with romance. But she decides to set her mind to that as well, and with the help of her father's K-dramas, she creates the perfect plan to win her crush over. I recently just got into K-dramas, so this was so much fun to read. I've already read it. I thought it was really cute. There's actually a little starter guide recommendations at the end of this book, so if you don't know what K-drama to watch, get this book. Like I said before, my birthday was in February, and my beautiful friend Hannah from A Clockwork Reader actually sent me 2 books for my birthday. The first one was Avatar: The Last Airbender, the graphic novel, Part 1, The Promise, a continuation of the Avatar: The Last Airbender series. I didn't even know that these existed until she told me, so of course she got me this. We are actually watching, or trying to watch, Avatar together, but you know, we both have school, so we can't just sit around and watch Avatar all the time like we want to. And the other book, which isn't really a book, but I thought I would include it in this video anyway, it is a coloring book of Pride and Prejudice. Actually, it is kind of a book because it follows the whole plot of Pride and Prejudice. There are some words there are some words, so it's a book. I wonder if I can include this on my Goodreads reading challenge. I have been wanting a coloring book for so long, something to do while I am listening to audiobooks and not driving or doing dishes or whatever I normally do when I listen to audiobooks, but it's almost too pretty to actually color in. I'm so bad about this. I save all of the things that I really enjoy and I never touch them. Oh goodness. Anyway, thank you so much, Hannah, for giving me these books. I will cherish them forever. I then have Every Day by David Levithan, which was actually sent to me because it is the movie tie-in version. I've been meaning to read this since it came out in 2012 when I was in high school. I've always put it in my Amazon cart, but never actually purchased it because of reasons, I don't know. So thank you so much for sending this to me. This follows a soul named A who wakes up in a different body, a body of any gender, every single day, and soon falls in love with a girl. Of course, complications arise because how are you going to maintain that relationship? I'm not sure. I have not read the book. Next we have The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. This is a historical fiction fantasy novel. I love my historical fiction. It takes place in 18th century Cairo, following a Kahn woman named Nari. She grew up not believing in magic, but once she summons a jinn warrior to her side during one of her Khans, she has no choice but to accept that magic exists. The jinn warrior tells her of the magical city of Brass, and I assume they go there. I've read very few novels set in the Middle East, so I am very excited to read this and learn more about the culture of 18th century Cairo. Admittedly, I have no idea what was happening there at that time. I have Salt the Sea by Ruta Sepetys, another book that I feel like everyone but me has already read. This takes place in 1945 as the events of World War II are winding down. This is set on a ship named Wilhelm Gustloff, and on board are 4 different refugees from 4 different countries. They all have secrets to hide, and they unite when tragedy strikes yet again. They believe that they are fleeing one tragedy, World War II, but unfortunately they encounter another one, and I believe that the ship sinks because there is a quote that says, "The forgotten tragedy that was 6 times deadlier than the Titanic." So, woo, I did not know that this was based on a real story. Goodness gracious. Oh, fun, fun, fun. We then have most of Shakespeare's works because this semester I am in a Shakespeare class where we have to read all of Shakespeare's plays, and it's fun. It actually is fun because we have to act everything out. That is, most of our grade is just acting. I mean, I'm not a great actress, but it's quite fun. Anyway, Shakespeare. We have Much Ado About Nothing. Had to act that one out. I was Beatrice. The Taming of the Shrew. We have Macbeth. A Midsummer Night's Dream. We have The Merchant of Venice. We have not gotten to this one yet. We have Twelfth Night. We have King Lear. And we have Othello. I also had to purchase Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. This is inspired by characters from Hamlet. And speaking of Shakespeare, the next book is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. One night during a production of King Lear by Shakespeare, the main actor, who is a famous Hollywood star, slumps over and dies while he is acting, and that marks the start of the apocalypse. This is told from multiple perspectives. It's told from the perspective of the Hollywood star and from the traveling theater company, and it is also told from multiple points in time, so it is not chronological. You have to piece everything together like a puzzle. Next I have The Queen of the Tearling by Erica Johansson, which follows a young princess who must reclaim her mother's throne, her mother was queen, and learn how to rule and how to defeat the Red Queen, who is an evil sorceress intent on destroying her. I actually bought To Buddy Read with Hannah from A Clockwork Reader. She's getting a lot of shout outs in this video, but both of us did not finish it. Maybe I'll read it someday. Nearing the end, we have When the Moon Was Ours by Anna Marie McLemore, which is a magical realism tale following 2 best friends, Miel and Sam. They are both quite strange. Miel has roses growing out of her wrists, and rumors say she spilled out of a water tower when she was 5, and Sam paints moons and hangs them up all over town. But there are 4 sisters rumored to be witches who want the roses growing out of Miel's wrists, and they're willing to do anything to get them. I was sent Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, a murder mystery that takes place at a boarding school. I think it's a boarding school. It's a private academy. I hope it's a boarding school. I love reading about boarding schools. We have The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden, which is historical fiction, fantasy, and inspired by Russian folklore. This takes place in Russia on the edge of the wilderness and follows our main character Vasilisa, who loves the fairy tales that her nurse tells her about demons and spirits. Her mother dies and her father brings home a new wife. Her new stepmother bans the entire family from honoring the family spirits and from performing rituals, which causes the crops to die and for dark creatures to creep forward from the darkness. Vasilisa must use the powers that she has long kept concealed. Ooh, I want to read about Russia and fairy tales. The last two books are two books in a series. They are Scythe and Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. This is set in a world where humans have conquered death. There is no hunger and no disease. The only people who can end a life are scythes, and they must do so in order to avoid overpopulation. Two teens, Citra and Rowan, are ordered to apprentice a scythe and learn the art of taking a life, and neither one wants the job, but they gotta do it. What else happens? I do not know. That is all that is in the synopsis, so I don't know what direction it goes in. I'm assuming not a happy direction, or else there wouldn't be two books. So those are all of the books that I have acquired over the past few months. Thank you to my friends and family and the publishers who got me some of these books. I am very, very grateful. Let me know down below which book you think I should read first. Like always, I am overwhelmed with options. There are so many amazing books here. Of course, I am reading the Shakespeare already because I have to for a grade, so don't recommend that. Too late, already doing it. Thank you all so much for watching and making it to the end of this video. I really, really appreciate it, and I will talk to you all soon in my next video. Bye!